Whoa. Okay. All right. So, hi, we're here with my friend Elise,
Oh,
and we're celebrating World Water Monitoring Day, which is happening tomorrow. And it just so happened that we were bouldering in Little Cottonwood Canyon on Tuesday, and you said that you worked as a water monitor. And I
yep.
was like, what? I need to know everything you do.
So much, so many things.
So, what we're doing for World Monitoring Day, just here on the ground, is tomorrow we'll be at a Tree Utah event, and they're doing a restoration of an area, a wetland that's by the Oxbow. Um, and I've got a water monitoring kit from Westminster from the Great Salt Lake Institute, and we're just gonna test it out and see what we find down there. And then I have a group of friends that is going to float the Jordan River, and you're more than welcome, but we're going to test a couple different sections along the Jordan River.
Very cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That sounds like a ton of fun.
Oh, it's going to be super fun. And
Yeah.
the question initially was stick versus turd, because we were playing this game whether or not there were sticks or turds in the river, the floating objects, because it
Mm,
smelled really bad. So our inferences went there.
yeah, I think you're gonna find both.
Unfortunately or fortunately, we didn't find either.
Oh, well, that's good.
Well, yeah, lots of styrofoam.
Oh, no.
I know. So yeah, we're just gonna Elise agreed to just let me ask her questions about what you do and then why we should celebrate World Water Monitoring Day. And if
Yeah.
you want to be a water monitor, not the alligator, but the data technician, this is your answer.
Yes, or at least a potential avenue to go, because there's so many different things you could do even within water monitoring. So that's
Ooh,
just one way.
just one way. Okay, cool. Well, what you can start by saying what that one way is, or you can start by saying what's the whole big picture? Like when you say water monitoring, what even is that?
Sure. So I can give you my perspective on it, which is that, at least where you live and where I live, I don't know where all the students live, but in Utah, and across the country, we are mandated by the EPA to keep tabs on how our different waters are doing throughout the state. And that is mandated through the Clean Water Act, which is a federal act. It was called the Federal Pollution Control Act, not that you need to know that. But it basically tells states that they need to come up with their own sets of water quality standards. That if we have water quality that exceeds those standards, it means that that water body or those water bodies are polluted and we have to do something about it.
Huh.
And so my
Like,
job go ahead, yeah?
oh, I thought that was surprising. Each state does that themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, even though it's a federal act.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's kind of like giving, there's a federal framework that we have to do this, but you're kind of given the freedom to do do it how you want to do it within your own state. But one key is that you can't be less strict than the federal standards. So like there's federal standards and there's state standards. And if your state standards are less stringent than the federal standards, then you might have a problem. So
that seems to make sense. Like here's the hurdle. If you want to go make a higher hurdle, go for it. But at least hit this.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So the way that we do that, or at least the entity that does that in the state of Utah, is the Division of Water Quality.
Okay.
And I am an environmental scientist with the Division of Water Quality in the Watershed Protection section.
Ooh, do you have a fun badge for that? Like Watershed Protection.
I wish.
I don't know.
Yeah, sounds like I walk around with like a sheriff badge. I'm just like, hey, you need to protect that water.
Yes. No. At least a vest.
Yeah, I you know what? I should lobby for that. Um, yeah, so within the watershed protection section, we collect water quality data through monitoring, and then we kind of aggregate all of that data into one giant mess of data that we then compare to our Utah water quality standards. And then we produce this report that's a 2-year report. It's called the Integrated Report on Water Quality. And it basically is just like, here's a score sheet of like how all of our waters are doing in the state of Utah.
It's like grades.
Yeah.
Like after you've had a test.
Exactly.
How you did.
Yeah. And then we look at that list and we see the ones that are not doing well, and then we prioritize which of those do we want to actually like address and you know, do restoration projects, kind of like what you guys sounds like you're doing on the Jordan, right?
Yeah, it's on the Jordan. Yeah. Oh, cool.
So it all kind of ties back. And so in a nutshell, we have to collect this water quality data to understand, you know, how our waters are doing, and if they're not doing well, what do we need to do to fix it? And so my role is both like producing that report and then also analyzing the data in these polluted waters to determine what to do.
So yeah, when you say polluted waters, like that's a big thing. Like how do you, if there's some styrofoam there, if it smells bad, like how do you dig in even deeper to know how healthy a stream is?
Oh, that's a really great and complicated question. I could give you the boring answer is that we have a set of codes, Utah administrative codes, that lay out all of the water quality standards. Some of them are like numeric criteria. So for example, if we think of like cadmium, which is a heavy metal, you know, we don't want to be exposing ourselves to harmful levels of cadmium, so we'll have like an actual number, a concentration for how much of that cadmium can be in the water and still be not polluted. But we also have these things called narrative standards, and those are a little more subjective. Like they say the water can't have a foul odor, or you know, there's other ones too, you know, have like debris in it, or
so our science experiment, we could have called it a narrative, like we were measuring narrative data.
Yep.
Okay, that's cool.
You're collecting data to assess against a narrative standard.
Interesting. So like how this is pretty stinky.
Like
the narrative.
The problem, I will say that we don't have a lot of waters that are like listed as polluted because of the way that they smell, but we do have that in our state code as like an option if we need to.
It seems like still important data to have. Like it's good to note.
Yeah. And one key thing that I forgot really quick is that in the state of Utah, we break up all of the watersheds into these geographic pieces called assessment units. And so like, for example, the Jordan River has been broken up into a few different segments that are each their own assessment unit. And those units are assigned something called a beneficial use. And so that determines what that means is like, is it used for drinking water? Is it used for recreation? Is it used for by aquatic life? Are there cold water fish that live there or warm water fish that live there? Is it for shorebirds, that kind of thing? And then those beneficial uses are what determine what that like numeric criterion is going to be for cadmium or mercury or total dissolved solids or E. coli.
Oh, that's so interesting. So if you have a section of the river that is floated a lot by boats, you would want to make sure that there's not that much E. coli because someone might go swimming in it?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
So if there's like primary contact recreation, like people are going to be swimming in it, then that E. coli standard is going to be lower than in a water body that we're just protecting for, let's say, trout. Because trout, aren't as affected by E. coli in the water, so they don't need like a super stringent E. coli standard.
So the fish that live in the water, though, they still need to breathe just like we do. And so we need to make sure that there's oxygen still in the water, right?
Yep.
So one of the things you measure is, what is it, dissolved oxygen?
Yep.
Okay.
It's called we call it minimum dissolved oxygen. We also measure, like for aquatic life, we measure temperature because, fish have this level at which when we go above it, then they can die because the water is too warm, which means it doesn't hold as much oxygen. So it's all kind of connected. And then the
that's so interesting. Yeah.
is connected to what the pH of that water is as well. Because I think, oh my gosh, I'm not a chemist, but I think the more oxygen you have dissolved in water, the more basic the water is. So the pH goes up, I think.
Okay. Cool. So tomorrow when we test, we're going to look at all those things. Yes. We're going to look at dissolved oxygen, temperature, pH, and then I actually have a kit for nitrogen and phosphorus. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, those are two big issues, I would say, in a lot of Utah, because nitrogen and phosphorus, they're these essential nutrients. They're super important for life, but they're commonly used in agriculture and thrown on agricultural crops. And then when it rains, the runoff washes into the streams and into the lakes. And if we have too much nitrogen and phosphorus, that can cause algae to proliferate. And then it can form like mats on the top of the water, which then affects light penetration and affects dissolved oxygen concentrations because they're like respiring and taking up. Actually, I guess the algae are photosynthesizing, but there are bacteria underneath the algae that are respiring and taking up all of the oxygen, and then that can cause like dead zones and stuff.
And isn't it also when they die that causes the dead zone? Like they take in a lot of oxygen at that point?
That's it. Yep.
Yeah, that always confuses me too. I'm like, wait, if you think of the equation for photosynthesis, carbon dioxide goes in and oxygen comes out.
Yep.
So how do you get a dead zone? But it's the bacteria that are using it, and when they die, they also do respiration and they suck up all of the oxygen. And
exactly. Yeah.
Crazy.
And then we also have, sorry, I just interrupted.
Oh, you're good. You're rolling. I'm learning so much.
But we also have harmful algae that can grow. They grow actually really commonly in Utah Lake because Utah Lake has a lot of nutrients in it.
Yes.
And they produce cyanotoxins and different toxins that can be really harmful to animals and humans and can cause people to get really sick. So that's something else that we're monitoring for. And that's kind of like,
if you live in Utah Lake and you go swimming there, could you get affected by the cytotoxin? Like if it enters your body or if it hits your arms, like what's the level?
It can cause, there's like some different specific toxins, and I'm definitely not an expert in which ones are which, but some of them are neurotoxins, and so they can actually affect the brain and can cause shutdown of function because the neurotoxin has gone into the brain. And that has actually happened, that has happened to some animals in Utah as a result of harmful alcohol.
Really?
Yeah, but I think they can also cause rashes and stuff like that. So I hate to say it, but sometimes working for the Division of Water Quality, you're like, maybe you just shouldn't touch the water.
Oh, no. Well, I guess we'll go out and see it, and I can... So this data exists. You monitor it. People go out, but we're going to do it ourselves tomorrow. And we can check it against the standards and see whether or not those areas are good to swim in.
Yeah. that would
Okay.
be a really good exercise. And if you find anything, let me know. Any like
Yeah.
flags or anything.
Ooh, that'd be
Um,
fun. I saw my
yeah.
first newt the other day. That was pretty cool.
Oh, where?
Dog Lake.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's a nice area.
I've never seen a newt before. Okay, well, awesome. Let's see. What else should we talk about? What can people do? Like, we're gonna go monitor the water, and then now what? After that, we can figure out if we can swim in it. We can figure out if we can drink it. How do we ensure that our water stays healthy?
So, how do we ensure that it stays healthy?
Or how do we keep it healthy, even if
Yeah,
it's
that's a great question. I mean, that would involve, I guess, getting out the word about things that negatively affect water quality. So, like, a big problem actually in Salt Lake is the movement of stormwater. So, like, when it rains in the city and all the rain, flows over the streets and stuff, all that water gets funneled into storm drains. And a lot of those storm drains actually just pump the water right out into the Jordan River.
Oh.
And so all of the oils from the roads and, debris and chemicals and all of that can just get flushed straight into our water bodies. So I would say, getting out the word about containing your messes if you're working on your car or washing your car, just trying to keep that water out of the storm drains is.
So is that why it's better to wash your car at a car wash than it is to do it in your driveway?
Yeah, because
they capture the
water. Yeah.
Okay. I have been really getting into washing my car at car washes right now. I don't know why. I'm like, I know this wastes water, but it's sort of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And then for waters, I guess something I would suggest is that if your students have, oh my gosh, my dog is like squeaking her toy and it's really
she's like, time to go out.
Yeah.
She's like, you're done with work.
Yeah. But if your students have a water body that they love, like Little Cottonwood Creek or Big Cottonwood Creek or Bear Lake, somewhere throughout the state, Lake Powell, and you go to our integrated report page and you see how that water's doing, and if it seems like it's impaired for something, so it has pollutants that exceed our standards, we actually have a grant program through the Division of Water Quality where we get money from EPA to put in projects that help fix the water quality issue. And so a lot of times we work with producers, like farmers in the area, who are like, oh, I'm tired of wasting water by using flood irrigation that just washes cow poop right into the stream. And we can give them money to, say, move the cows so that they're farther away from the stream, or install a different irrigation system so it's not like flood irrigation, it's sprinklers, which is a much more effective and efficient way of watering the landscape. And so, long story short, if someone has a vision for what they want to do to fix a water quality issue in the state of Utah, there is money out there to help achieve that.
That's awesome. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
You can feel empowered that if you want to do something, you can do something.
And we not only fund actual, like, on the ground construction and restoration, but if someone has a really cool educational idea, like, oh, I want to create a teaching module or something about non-point source pollution, we provide money for the development of those tools.
Oh, that is really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Just food for thought.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up this, I suppose. Do you have any advice for the youth? For anybody watching this
Hmm.
in this day and age?
Um, I would say just have resilience in what you are interested in trying new things. That's like a very general comment, but I got a job in the Division of Water Quality because of my programming skills, because I can do data analysis using the R programming language. I don't know if any of your students have heard of that.
Maybe.
But it's like a statistical analysis language. And when I first started learning it, I thought it was the hardest thing in the world, and I thought I was terrible at it, but I just kept at it and kind of over time was able to break into it and found like, oh, this is my passion. I love looking at data, visualizing it, analyzing it, manipulating it. And 4 years ago, I never would have imagined that this would end up being my career.
Wow.
So I guess it's just kind of, you never know what's going to click.
Yeah.
But with water monitoring in general, I would just say, you can reach out to our division or other people who are collecting data throughout Utah to kind of get your foot in the door, go out and kind of like what you guys are going to be doing, collect some data and see if it's something that you want to learn more about, and just keep at it.
Oh, that's awesome. I think that's super important to hear nowadays when the news around the environment can seem pretty grim, and sometimes you don't know why you're learning how to analyze data. So
Yeah.
it can all pay off in the end, right?
Yeah. And I would also say, if you get really frustrated with something, just like set it down,
Yes.
like let it ruminate. Because I can't tell you the number of times that I've worked with a data set where I cannot figure out what's going wrong with it, and I just want to throw the computer. But if you just set it down, your mind is still working through it, and have faith in yourself, and it'll work out. I don't know if it's like a millennial thing to get all worked up and be like,
No.
oh, I can't do this. But
yes, it is for sure. Yes, you can. I say that too because we're working through, especially when everything's online and there's all these programs on the computer. So I think that's really good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much, Elise.
Yeah, no problem. If anyone has questions, wants to learn more about what I do, or the Division of Water Quality or restoration or anything like that, I can give you my email and phone number, and they can reach out to me.
Totally. I'll definitely link that too here. And and I hope we've inspired some people to want to get out and test the waters and actually figure out what's out there, like down to like a molecule level.
Definitely. And that just made me just like running on here, but
yeah, you're good.
I will get emails from just regular citizens who are concerned about a water body that they really care about. Like they'll say, oh, I saw this thing, or, I'm concerned because there's lots of algae in the water, or there's no water in the stream bed. And our division is like, we have to act on that. So I would say if they see anything out there that's suspicious, they can reach out to us and we can see what we can do about it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's another way to actually turn your sentiment into action.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope you guys have a lot of fun. And yeah, they're welcome to reach out to me whenever.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Elise.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. I'm going to just